The fact that GTA 5 runs on the PlayStation 3 is honestly insane. It has a massive open world with an extremely detailed city, countryside, mountains, oceans and even wildlife, all running on a hardware that was already considered outdated by the time the game came out. The PS3 launched back in 2006 and GTA 5 dropped in 2013. That's 7 years later, and yet Rockstar somehow managed to build the most popular game ever and squeeze it into a system that only had 256 megabytes of RAM and another 256 megabytes for graphics. To give you an idea, a short 10-second video you record on your iPhone in 4K probably weighs more than the entire memory of the PlayStation 3 running GTA 5. But how is this even possible? Well, Rockstars ended up building a world in a way that's honestly kind of mind-blowing. When you play, the game isn't sitting there with the entire map loaded. It just can't do that. So instead, it's constantly putting the world together around you as you play. Wherever you go, whatever you look at, the game is quietly pulling in pieces it needs for that exact moment. And meanwhile, it's letting go of everything you've already passed. And the funny part is that when you play, you barely notice any of this. But why did Rockstars have to do this? Why couldn't they just fit a fully loaded map? To really understand this, we have to look inside the PlayStation 3, because instead of having a simple processor, it used the Cell Broadband engine, which you can imagine like a small team where one boss, called the PPE, gives orders to the workers called SPUs. So when you drive a car, the PPE sends orders to the SPUs to generate the animations and the audio. Once all that work is done, the results are sent back forth to the actual graphics processor, the RSX chip, which is the part that finally turns everything into pixels on the screen. But here's the catch. Those workers are very fast but also very picky. Each one only has 256 KB of its own tiny workspace. So before they can do anything, the boss has to carefully send the exact data they need. And if you mess this up even a little bit, they just sit there waiting or slow everything down instead of helping. Then we have the Blu-ray drive, which could only read data at around 9 MB per second, meaning getting data from the disc was pretty slow. And this is where things got tricky, especially for a huge open world like GTA 5. Rockstars had to get creative and decided to split the work between the hard drive and the disc, meaning big and heavy things like 3D models and textures were read from the hard drive, while smaller things like sounds and animations were read from the Blu-ray. It's like filling a bucket with water using two taps because one is too slow on its own. But then there was another problem, which was the memory. For that they used a very strict system where all the memory was divided into different spaces. It's like having separate boxes where one box is only for cars, one only for people and one only for buildings. So if you'd go to an area that contains no buildings, that box would be thrown away instantly. So all of these creative systems Rockstars use worked very well. But one of the most impressive things is how you can switch between characters almost instantly, even if they are far apart. And it feels simple because the camera just zooms out into the sky and then drops back down somewhere else. But on the PlayStation 3, this is actually extremely difficult. The game is doing a huge amount of work in just a matter of seconds. The game first has to pack up everything from the current area like cars, pedestrians, sounds and buildings, which means removing them from memory to make up space. Then at the same time it has to load the new area where the other character is, bringing in new streets, new cars, new people and new sounds. And it also has to switch all the characters' data, things like what the person is wearing, where they are standing, what they are doing, and on top of that, the world itself must stay consistent. If one character causes chaos somewhere, the game has to remember that and keep it the same when you come back later. And all of this is happening just in a few seconds while the camera is flying through the sky. And by the way, the game doesn't do this for fun. It does that to hide the loading screen. So while the player is distracted, the system is constantly deleting old data and loading new data, all perfectly timed so that by the moment the camera lands, everything is ready. But then we have the detail of the world itself. In Los Santos there's traffic everywhere, people walking around, conversations happening, and even the ocean has life in it. So again, Rockstars constantly reuses models. On top of that, visual tricks also play a huge role. The distant haze, the lighting, the way the world fades into the horizon is all designed to hide the limits. But next to those tricks, the game constantly tries to predict what you're about to do, so it can prepare the world before you can reach it. Instead of loading everything once you arrive somewhere, it constantly tries to guess where you are heading and starts loading the direction early. So when you are driving down the road, the game is already preparing the next streets ahead of you. But if you suddenly turn, the system quickly shifts focus and starts preparing the new area while quietly dropping work from the old one. And this is extremely extremely important on the PS3 because the hard drive and Blu-ray are pretty slow, so the game cannot afford to wait and see. It has to stay one step ahead at all times. And the Cell Broadband engine helps to manage this by constantly updating a list of what needs to be ready. And this constant prediction and preloading is one of the biggest reasons the world feels very smooth, even though the hardware is constantly struggling to keep up in real time. So despite all the limitations, GTA 5 still became the most popular game ever. But what really pushed GTA 5 far beyond almost every single title was how accessible it was across multiple consoles. It first launched on the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. This was the time the game was at its peak, with millions of daily players. But unlike most games that stayed tied to the platform they launched on, GTA 5 continued to grow and was later re-released on new consoles such as the PlayStation 4, Xbox One and even the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. By then the game itself was already 7 years old. It was able to surpass multiple eras of gaming, and besides gaining new players after each generation, they kept their old players too. You'd think that after a game's peak it slowly loses its players, but GTA had the exact opposite. Players stay loyal to the game, and the reason why is because of the online mode. Think about it, why would you play a game's story again if you've already done it before? Of course, many people still do that just for the sake of nostalgia or their love for the game, but the majority isn't going to play a game they've already beat. Rockstars knew this, so they introduced the online mode. Instead of a simple multiplayer mode, they made a digital world where players could create their own open world. In this mode, players weren't tied to annoying missions they didn't want to do. Instead, they could create their own. Others spent time collecting luxury cars, while some just wanted to cause chaos with their friends in the open world. So because of this new mode, the game never really feels finished. There is always something new to chase, whether it's wealth, property or cars. Online content also helped with keeping the game relevant. We've all seen those parkours on YouTube with stunt clips and custom maps. And watching those videos inspired new players to buy the game too. Knowing the limitations this game had, it's just one of those cases where you're completely impressed by the game and the developers behind it. But as you probably already know, this wasn't the first time Rockstars had to be creative. When the PS2 came out, Rockstars had a similar problem. And in this video I show you guys exactly how GTA San Andreas almost pushed the PS2 beyond its limits. Now this was it for today's video. I want to thank you guys for watching and I'll see you in the next one.